Would you see, if anything, the differences of getting your line healthy and guys who were playing a lot in the beginning of the season working their way back in, Coach?
Yeah, I saw a lot, actually. So one thing, we've missed Roger and Mason. We missed them this year. Like, we missed those are two really good players. I mean, I'd be willing to bet that both those guys would be all conference caliber players. The guys that stepped in, and we had multiple guys step in, did a really nice job. But deep down, they're not as good of players. They're just not. And when Roger came back 2 weeks ago, he was a little rusty. And Mason came back this week. He was on a pitch count. He was a little rusty. But you can see the difference in the power, in the strength, and the movement. You can see it. What that's done, though, now is we've gotten a lot of guys back, and we have good depth. I mean, it's forced us to have depth. We don't know how many games we have left, but we were out there today, and we're rolling deep in O-linemen. So it's really bodes well for the future, but getting those guys back is definitely a plus, and we didn't have them in the first UNLV game.
Will Mason be off the pitch count this week? Or?
I'm not sure about that. That's above my pay grade.
Jackson Woodard.
Which isn't very much, by the way. That's a very low pay grade.
Jackson Woodard this week. I don't know in the times like how you try to neutralize a linebacker that wrecks as much havoc as he does. And how do you prepare to?
I think they have three of the best individual defenders we've played against all year in 7, 1, and 2. All right, they got a linebacker, they got a boundary safety, and they got a defensive end who plays most of his time in the boundary. So all three of those guys are really good players, and they're all in the boundary. So maybe we should go to the field. No, they're really good players. 7 and 1 are ball hawks on top of being good players. Their secondary is all good tacklers, and we're gonna do what we do, and we know we have a lot of respect for UNLV. This is strength on strength. They're good in the same area as we are. Their defense they're strong where we're strong. It's going to be a good matchup. I mean, they're good in the same areas. They're as good as anybody we played, maybe better.
Coach, in the NFL, you get your divisional opponents. You play home and away every time.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of those scenarios.
It
you
is.
got them away, now you get them at home. What's the key to the turnaround when you play them again?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like you get to the end of the year, you got all this tape, but since they played us, they've played all spread teams, right? Since they played us, they played Hawaii, San Jose, Nevada, and San Diego State. Those are the 4 games they played. So we're sitting there going, hey, where's all the other film that looks like us? They didn't play Wyoming. They didn't play Colorado State. They played Fresno State early. So we've been kind of slugging it out here the last few weeks, and they've been playing spread teams. Now we're coming back together, and that's one thing you don't get in the NFL because everybody's pretty much the same scheme-wise, pretty much. So we don't really know what changes they've made because they haven't played anybody like us. They can definitely see what we've been doing the last few weeks. Although the O-lineman coming back, that's probably the biggest change. But yeah, that's a good point. Is playing them twice in a year and 3 times in 1 year, but that happens in the NFL all the time. Yeah, just the home field, the crowd. It was loud. It was loud when we played down there last time. They had a record crowd, and they'll get to see what a loud crowd is here this time.
What's your experience in the return games in the division? Does the offense or the defense generally have the better advantage in the second?
Yeah, I do not know the answer to that. That's a good question. I cannot give you anything because I don't know the answer. I'd say probably trust your players to do their thing.
terms of yards per carry, that was Ashton's lowest game first time he played him. Maybe the offensive lineman being out is what you're talking about with you had 2 starters out that game. Did they do anything in particular to quote, slowed him more than other teams have? Or?
They're good against the run, period. All right, they're giving up 101 yards a game. They've only had 2 teams rush for over 150 in a game all year. Kansas, early in the year, rushed for like 193, and we rushed for like 185. So they're good against the run, and their secondary can tackle. Like we try to make teams secondaries tackle. Like we want to cover up the interior guys and the linebackers and make their DBs tackle. These guys are a good tackling team. Obviously they have a defensive head coach who's been very successful. I think if you really go back and study that tape from the first game, I think we left a few out there. I mean, they're going to try to stop us. We know that. Everyone's going to try to stop us, but we left a few out there in the run game.
Just everything at stake here with the playoffs, potential first-round bye, all the money involved. As an Idaho kid, is this the biggest football game ever played on Idaho soil?
I do not know. I thought Highland Pokey was the biggest game played on Idaho soil. Highland Pokey, 12,000 in the mini dome. That's hard to beat. This is a big game for sure, and whatever comes after comes after. But this is the biggest game this week for sure on Idaho soil.
Along those same lines, I mean, in '99 and 2000, you guys were just excited to play Louisville and Utah. That was a big deal. Now
we beat them too.
Exactly. Now it's a top 4 seed, right to play for the national championship, and you've obviously become very fond of Boise State. So, how would you describe this crazy 25-year ride?
Yeah, that part is really amazing. I mean, that same Highland Pokey rivalry that was getting 12,000. That's when Bronco Stadium was in those days seating 19 or 20,000, and when I was in the press box last week and they popped that thing up to over 37,000 again. I call Pete, I call Hawk, I tell them, can you believe they're averaging 37,000 fans a game here? Like, that's crazy. And looking over at that student section, they had to resell those tickets because the students forgot. Those people were packed in there tight, and they got there early. That was very cool to see. And, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And God bless the college football playoff for creating this excitement, not just here, but a lot of different places. I think it's awesome for college football. I hope they expand it to 16 like they're talking about, and I hope they don't forget the little guys.
There was like a year and a half there where on offense, it didn't seem like we really knew what Boise State's identity was. Are they going to be up-tempo? Are they going to slow it down? Are they going to run the ball? Are they going to throw the ball? And ever since you've been calling plays, Dirk, like, it's been pretty clear. Like, you guys run the football. You guys have averaged almost 250 yards rushing since when you've been calling plays. So how pleased are you with the identity that you've been able to create on offense, and how these guys have obviously, embraced it?
Well, I've said many times in here, our team's just built that way right now. I mean, when I was here the first time, I wanted to throw it every play. And, we wanted to run all kinds of crazy stuff. But right now, I mean, we got really good running backs. I mean, when I came back last time, we didn't know what we had in Taylon Green when we first started. I mean, we were shut out in the first half, that first game. But, we went from Taylon with good tailbacks to now we have a really good O-line and good tailbacks. A great tailback. Maybe the best tailback in the country. Maybe the best player in the country. But that's the way we're built. So we'd be foolish to not play to their strengths.
That's also going to be an identity you embrace, though, right? Like,
the players like it. I mean, maybe the receivers don't. But the O-line, they like it. Yeah, those guys like – the O-linemen want to run block. They don't want to pass block.
Maddox Madsen, 21 touchdowns, 3 picks this year. I know he's not perfect, but, man, that seems like a recipe for success, those numbers married together.
7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I had our guys do a little study for me, and I think in like the last 20 years, there's only been 42 quarterbacks that have had above 7-to-1. These guys can give you the exact numbers on that, but it's pretty high. I think there's only one other guy this year, maybe Clemson's quarterback, is like 9-to-1. He's like 27-to-3 or something like that. But 7-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and Mad Dog's had a couple games where he could definitely play better. But when Mad Dog makes us go, and he made really good decisions last week. He was accurate. He was on time. He made good decisions with his legs. We had another game with no sacks. I think we're something like, I don't know. We're top 10 in the country in fewest sacks. I don't know what the number is. We're top 10 in the country in fewest interceptions. Now, UNLV is top 10 in getting interceptions. So, again, I said it's strength on strength. But Mad Dog is a really good player for what we are right now. And he does what we need him to do. That's what quarterbacks are supposed to do.
Do you, I mean, I know that he's like the ultimate competitor and stuff like that, but do you spend any extra time before a championship game reminding, not make the moment any bigger or anything like that, or is he just kind of equipped for it already?
I think Coach Danielson handles our whole team. Coach D's in charge of he's in charge of how our team prepares and motivation. He does a really good job, and I'll let him. I'm not going to step on his toes on that. Coach D, he does a good job of getting our team ready for every week.
Over the past month, has there been a purpose to get him more carries, or is it just the opportunities in the game that are coming up?
Doing what we feel like we have to do to win the game. Like we've been in playoff mode for a while, so we're doing what we feel like we have to do to win, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
It seems to me that when he's at his best, you look at the end of the game and there's 8 or 9 different guys that catch passes. Is that because he's better? Is it because the receivers are better? When you look back at the film, what causes the high spread out of catches?
Yeah, I can't speak to the number of guys, but I think it's just more when we stay ahead of the chains, we're better. And then, but just before I forget about, we had the ball a lot in the first half. When I looked at the stat thing at halftime, which I never look at it until halftime, I mean, Ashton had 21 carries at halftime. I think we ran 48 plays. Okay, so you're on track for 96 plays in a game. That's like 30 over your normal. So, and we didn't have very many explosives. We only had 9 explosives. Like we had, I think, 3 15-ish play drives. Like we were like barely making 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. So getting back to that carries thing, I asked Ashton the day before the game how many he had in him, and he said whatever it takes. That was a good answer. That was exactly the answer I was looking for. We want to get the receivers more involved. I do see that when those guys get involved more, it's good for everybody. But when we don't get them, either it was we didn't have the right plays, we didn't have the right schemes, or we didn't protect good enough, or maybe Mad Dog misses a throw. We had 5 drops the other day, guys. We had 5 drops. Like we can't drop balls that we're supposed to catch. So, but I do recognize that. I think there is something to that. I can't really wrap my head around it.
Passes are caught by maybe 2 guys versus 7.
Yeah, I think that's sort of just luck of the draw. Some games we have more groups than others. Like we group stuff different every week, depending on trying to match up, run and pass. That's all.
There's obviously a lot of debate this time of year with the Heisman Trophy and all that kind of stuff. But just for you, how much fun has it been to coach Ashton Jeanty this year?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like I personally don't deal with Ashton that much. I mean, Jimmy coaches him. I don't even really talk to Ashton that much. So to ask him how many carries he's got in him that week. It's been fun to watch as a fan. I mean, I marvel at the guy, but between him and what he does, and Jimmy Montgomery coaching him, and Nate Potter with the run design, and Tim Keene with the O-line, those are the guys that are really coaching him. I'm just calling the play to get it to him, like get him the ball.
Last year, there was a large percentage of your receiving yards were off screen passes. Not necessarily the case this season. Look at Maddox, where he's thrived as kind of that intermediate passing,
Yep.
that 10 to 19 yard range. He's one of the best in the country when it comes to that 10 to 19 yard range. Why has he been so kind of effective at that yardage?
Well, we are not a good screen team. First off, I love screens. No one likes screens more than me, but we are not a good screen team. So I've said it in here multiple times. You play to your strengths, you hide your weaknesses. And it doesn't matter if it's screens, outside runs, runs up the middle, runs around the end, reverses. You're going to play to your strengths, you're going to hide your weaknesses. Now, let me just tell you something. I know our weaknesses more than any person in this room. I know you guys all think you do. I know our weaknesses. Okay? I'm going to play to our strengths, hide our weaknesses. That's what I'm going to do. You guys good? You guys with me on that?
What makes Boise State not a good screen team?
We're not good at it, Mike. We're not good at it. I can tell you the reasons, but I will after the season. I'll tell you what the reasons are. I know what they are. I'm not going to tell you right now, but we're not good. We're not a good screen team. All right. Thanks, Coach.